Each of us has a light that's been put in us, not meant to shine our light, but to share our light. Welcome to Share Your Light, where we have candid conversations with individuals who have overcome tremendous hardship and adversity in their journey through life. Today, we are on part 2 of our conversation with Tianna Bartoletta as she journeyed through adversity, hardship, depression, and nearly giving up, not only on her Olympic dreams, but on life. Remember to go ahead and share this video with someone who can benefit and subscribe to our channel for more.
When you were at one of your low points and ready to give up, you wrote about it. Have you ever, and you don't have to say, but have you ever actually tried to hurt yourself, or was it just a thought?
Yeah, no, I used to be a cutter. So like this whole wrist still has the scars. You can't see them, but it still has the scars from when I cut. This, I have exactly one tattoo. It's this. Oh. It's Sanskrit, and it's Sanskrit for ahimsa, and that means nonviolence, compassion for self, right? It's on this arm for a reason because I'm left-handed, and this is the arm that I was cutting. So every day that I look down at this, I'm reminded that I don't need to hurt. I don't need to be cause for my own hurt. But there was one specific time when I was living in Florida, still married, that I was about to, I'll just come out and say it, I was about to hang myself. I had the belt around my neck. I had the belt attached to the exercise equipment in the gym. I was standing on the box. Then the phone rang, and I thought, if I don't answer the phone, he's going to know something's up. I'm not going to have time. So let me go answer the phone first, deal with that, and then come back to this. But he asked for something so tedious that took me forever to do, that I never was able to get back to that, which, I'm grateful for. But that's how close I was. It was a decision to answer the phone or to let it ring. And that's what happened. Had the phone not rang, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I have been there. And I remember being so livid about it. Like I couldn't even do that. Like I suck at even that, right? But it was just like when a lot of people, younger people, reach out to me who have suicidal thoughts, and I don't give them the like, you deserve to be here speech right off the bat, even though that is true. We all need to be here. The world needs all of our voices. I know that it comes from a place of hopelessness and despair. At least that's what I was feeling. So I ask, like, what is it that you can't do, can't face? And then talk all of that through and find like one little thing that you can have control over and pull that string until you've unspooled the entire thing. And that's like, it's just a really practical approach, because it took forever for my suicidal thoughts to go away, honestly. I mean, I had been suicidal from 2012 to 2016 and got a bunch of medals in between. It took a long time.
And that is so key what you're saying, because, as a coach and as society, we see people and we see them performing and we see them doing well. Even me. People see me and they see me, out, doing events or speaking, and they'll think and assume, oh, well, she's good. She's over it. And it's like, you don't know what thoughts I have to go to bed with each night and wake up to every morning. And I'll tell you, from the grief community, parents who've lost kids, the suicidal thoughts, or just, even if it's not necessarily suicidal thoughts, just not wanting to be here.
Yeah.
I prayed for months for God to take me. I did not want to be here.
So glad.
But I think that coaches need to understand the point that I was going to, was that just because someone is being successful or winning or performing doesn't mean that they're not having those experiences. And I feel like there has to be some kind of education for coaches to understand how to notice or recognize, or even just be there and make it an open policy to where people feel comfortable talking to you about what they're going through. I know so many athletes that don't, and that hold it in. What would you say to coaches or leaders?
Yeah, I think that having that open door mental health policy is important, because it's not even just a coach thing. It's a societal mindset that people who are doing well aren't going through things. And I mean, they asked me in court, in divorce court, they said, if it was as bad as you said, why are you so good? And I was just like, exactly. It took it took so much self-control to not make that face. And it's like, for real? So like the medals actually negate the reality that I wasn't okay, that this wasn't okay. And I understood in that moment, with the judge looking at me waiting for the answer, like, oh yeah, how is that possible? I'm like, we think this as a society, we think this. Being a high performer means you do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. But that doesn't mean all hell hasn't broken loose elsewhere. You just are able to focus and execute. That's what a high performer is. It doesn't negate anything else. And so coaches look at their athletes, and maybe I think a lot of this comes down to how we treat winning and losing, right? So coaches need to be mindful of how they talk about victories and losses, success and failure, because an athlete that's won a race that day, if all they're getting is praise, then there is no room for them to be like, yeah, but this. And if an athlete lost that day, and maybe all they're experiencing is disappointment from the team, from the coach, there's no room to say, actually, that was the best I had considering all of this was happening. And so it's really a matter of like, look, winning and losing, yay, we get points, whatever, but that isn't really what's important. It's nice, it's bonus points. And I know a lot of people who might listen to this after the fact will be like, that's easy to say with all your medals. No, like, I'm serious. If I had known that winning and losing wasn't what was important about the competitions, I would have won more. Like, I would have performed better, more consistently on a regular basis. So it's like, who cares about all that? If you got out there and you won, you ran a PB, and a bunch of stuff was wrong, congratulations. Talk about that though. That doesn't mean that they weren't wrong. They weren't so wrong because you still managed to win. It means, can you imagine how far you could go if you could address those things? It means it's a glimpse. It's like a little bit of encouragement, like, keep going. If you lost because you have all these things going on, it's like, well, you know what? You get 35,000 points for effort, for showing up. And a lot of people don't show up for themselves, don't get in the blocks, don't start the race. Hell, don't finish the race. You get points for that. And so let's try to address like how we can remove one of those things that's holding you back so that you can be even a little bit better the next time. Coaches need to start addressing these experiences that way, more so than like, you won today, you PR today. Because all I hear from young athletes that email me is like, okay, I'm trying to PR this season by 3 feet in the long jump. What do I need to do? And I'm just like, nah, we got a lot of work to do, kid. And none of it is on the track. None of it.
Right. The mental part is so important. That's what I stress all the time. And I've told people, the success that, people I've worked with on the track, it's not that they're so physically talented, but it's the mental. I put in the mental work like weekly. We're doing weekly meetings. We'll sacrifice a day of practice just to deal with mental, because if the mental isn't right, then other things, are going to fall apart. And one thing that you talked about in one of your blogs, I think it was the Great Depression. Is that the one where you talked about having to make the decision between, your mental health and your performances? Yeah. Let's talk about like the medication, people who need medication for depression and how that interferes with performances. And like, how did you do it? Were you able to perform without the medication and still maintain your mental health?
Yeah, no. So I was on the medication during indoor season, and like the edge was gone, like the aggression was gone. And I remember I could feel that I needed to be up for it. Like there was a part of me that was like, yeah, it's race time. Like excited. And I would even feel some of the nerves, but like I would get in the blocks, the gun would go off, and there was zero urgency. there was like a wall that my effort would hit. And that's like the medication was keeping me level. It was like, it was detecting an emotional surge and blocking it, which was the point. That's the point of the medication. It's like, no, we're going to keep you here so we can keep you stable. But athletes, we're up and down. Like that feeling in the warm up is different from the feeling in the call room. It's different from the feeling walking out to the track. It's different from the feeling in the blocks. And when you're on medication, all of that's regulated. Suddenly you're just here. And I couldn't compete the way that I had been competing. I couldn't compete at all. And so I made the decision to not take the medication, knowing that it was risky if I wasn't going to be able to manage my depression. And for the first couple months, it was not good. But there weren't any meets. And so I was able to, kind of fight that struggle behind the scenes. Eventually, as I started to do yoga and I had places to go and outlets to kind of like manage my emotions and depression. So I learned this through yoga. The more that I did that, the more I had the tools to manage it when it happened. And so being off the medication, it helped my performances return, but I had to get a mental conditioning coach. I had to create other practices like meditation and yoga to make up for that fact, to regulate myself without the medication. So you can't I needed the medication. Let me be clear about that. I needed it at that time. But I made the choice with my doctor to not take it because it was killing my job, basically. And so when that decision has to be made, you have to replace it with other stuff. You can't just get off it and then go do your thing. You have to be deliberate about, okay, like how can I keep myself together? And that's what I did well. And I've been able to stay away from medication this entire time because of that.
And what you describe is basically my process too. I didn't like, even though I wasn't competing, I didn't like how it felt, to be on the medication because like you said, it just keeps you here. And then there'd be sometimes that emotion would come up about my son and I would be so numb. I would feel the emotion, but I'd be numb and I would feel like I should be crying and I can't cry. So I was just like, I can't do this. But people look at yoga and meditation as, okay, I'm gonna do it sometimes, some people, and they'll think that they can do it when they start feeling bad. But when you were talking, it was like, this is your prescription.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it daily, whether you're feeling bad or not. Make it a part of that practice to keep yourself grounded so that it doesn't come up to a point to where it's so overwhelming, you know?
I love that you said that. My prescription. It totally is my prescription, and it keeps me above water. And the thing that we do as humans though is we got the prescription, right? We're doing our thing, we feel better, we're like, we don't need this anymore, bye, and we let all those practices go, and then we start that nice descent into the things we were trying to escape from. So it's like, it's a lot of work. But most of the work required to be an elite athlete or a high performer in any area of life is done away from the field of play. And once you accept that this is part of that, this is how you get better over there, then it's less like, oh, I'm just doing this thing. This is necessary. This is required reading. This is mandatory homework. This is what you need to do for you. Because you being a healthier person makes you a better athlete and a high performer.
Right. One thing you said earlier, so you said meditation and yoga, but then you also said service. And I know for me, I feel like that's a part of the prescription too. That's a part of what's helped me or helping me heal. And I think this healing is a continual process. It's not going to be a point to where I look back and say, yeah, she's healed. For the rest of my life, I'm going to have to keep working continually. But serving others and doing something for others takes it to where, just like you said with, the thoughts, like that thought, that bird is on that tree, that bird is not me. I can recognize that bird and acknowledge it, but it does not become a part of me just because it's there. So when I look at my pain, sometimes I'm focused on my pain, but when I'm helping someone else, it takes the focus off of this pain that I see as a part of me and I see someone else's pain, but I'm helping them through it. And it is a way of me, working through my pain by helping someone else with their pain, and also acknowledging that I'm not the only one going
Yeah.
through a hardship. So has service been a part of your healing process or of your therapeutic process as well? Does it help you feel better?
Absolutely. It actually started because way back when I was in school for in my social work degree program, we had to go to an anonymous meeting. We could choose which kind, but we had to go. And I chose Narcotics Anonymous. And I remember I didn't even know what a narcotic was. I was so green at the time. So I'm in this meeting, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, there's businessmen in here. And then there's well put together people in here. And then there was a woman who looked like she worked the streets a little bit. And they were like all walks of life. There's like a teacher in there. And I remember going over the 12 steps in there, and I had to introduce myself. It was so uncomfortable because I was like, my name's Tianna. I'm not an addict, but I'm here for school. And they welcomed me anyway. And long after that class ended and I didn't need to attend Narcotics Anonymous anymore, I kept going because I recognized in them the whole principle of you can't keep what you have unless you give it away, which is one of the steps that they live by, which is why they encourage each other to sponsor each other, right? And so I'm in these meetings like, we have nothing really in common at this point, but them sharing is giving me life right now. Them sharing through their pain. There's a woman who spoke about she's pretty sure it's her daughter's birthday, but she's not sure because she sold her for drugs. She thinks it is. Like, her heart does this thing this time of year every year. She's pretty sure, but she's not sure. She hasn't seen her. And I'm just like, I don't know how I could feel that, but I felt for my mother in that moment. And I was healed a little bit about, stuff that was happening between me and my mom. So that was like one of my first deep dives into what service can look like. It looks like just using your voice to tell your story, even if it's through tears or pain, embarrassment, shame, because she had no way of knowing that her story as a prostitute who sold her kid would heal something in me about my own relationship with my mother. She had no idea. And she couldn't have known, but she shared her willingness to share. And so I took away from that for the rest of my life, that sharing, no matter what, no matter who the audience is an act of love towards yourself, because you're acknowledging your own experience. And sometimes we don't get that from other people. So to put your experience down on paper or to speak about it is you doing that for yourself. And then sharing it allows somebody else to take something. Whatever it is they need, they'll take. However they need to interpret your words, they will. And that's just an important thing. So yeah, it's always been a part of my prescription. Because like I told you earlier, it's like I can't have gone through this crap for nothing. Like, I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe it.
Wow. I'm just blown away by you, Tianna, and your story, your willingness to share, your openness. You're an amazing person. I mean, I respected you as an athlete and just seeing your performances, but to really dive deep and see all that you're doing for people, not just athletes, but for people in general, is truly, truly remarkable.
Thank you.
What's next for Tianna?
So we got at least two more track seasons, right? Because the Olympics got postponed. So my original plan was like, try to make this Olympic team and then check in with my body after, see if I can do one more year to do the World Championships. And then 2022 would have been an off year that I would have retired, basically. Now we're looking at 2021, 22, 23, and 24. So, I mean, as far as like championship years for us,
Right.
essentially. So my new plan is train for the Olympics, check in with my body again, but I really want to go for the next World Championships in Portland and check in with my body there, because that is when I think I would like to retire. But if I'm feeling good and like things have changed and I'm feeling powerful, I guess I can keep going. So I'm not trying to retire myself prematurely, but I'm going to keep checking in. I'll go back to school because I have a molecular and microbiology degree I want to finish. And I will continue to write and continue to put these things together that I do. And so that's my short-term immediate plan for now.
And we talked a lot about high school and collegiate athletes, but as a professional, when you were talking, and I'm seeing how this has kind of made you reshift a lot of things that are going on in your life and look at it, has it caused or brought up anxiety in professional athletes?
Yeah, because for example, my contract ends December 31st. In a normal year, I would have had a competitive season behind me, maybe an Olympic team that I would have made, maybe even a medal from the Olympics to go back to the negotiating table and be like, hey, I'm worth keeping on for another year. What do I do with that now when there was no season, no Olympics? Like, maybe I have zero income going into an Olympic year. I'm not sure. And so that's causing a lot of anxiety because I don't know, like, if my last check is going to actually be my last check. And how do I figure out how to replace that income or earn that in a time where everything is shut down? So I could experience anxiety about that, but instead I recognize that that is a possibility. And I'm actively like working on things to alleviate that anxiety for me. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not letting it kill me. I go train, or I do what I can at home every day. I do a little something that can inch me towards the goal. So my idea is this: if there is some way for there to be some kind of competition this summer, then I need to be ready. Period. I need to at least have a respectable showing. I think it's not too much to ask for people to be like, I don't think they'll be like, oh, she only ran 11:20. Like, yeah, we've been in the house for 3 months. 11:20 is a good time. I think that's okay, you know? So I'm trying to work towards preparing myself for if an opportunity comes. Because if an opportunity doesn't come, that preparation isn't wasted. That effort isn't wasted. I've got my body right. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I've given myself something productive to do every day. There's benefits, right? But me doing that also assuages a lot of the anxiety about like, how will people know, or how will my sponsors know that I'm doing the right thing during this time? I'm showing them. I am putting together this body of work that says, bet on me, because everything I'm doing right now is me betting on myself. Period.
Wow. And see, that's okay, athletes out there listening. She is staying in shape because she's going to stay ready, and then she don't have to get ready. You know, a lot of people that shut it down and they're just not doing anything. But you're like, hey, if a meet comes up, you're going to see me at it ready to do something.
Yeah. Why not be ready? What else are we doing right now? Yeah,
Wow.
it's like this time is going to separate the little fish from the big fish. Like, and I'm excited about that because I know which pond I'm in, and I'm going to prove it. And if this is an opportunity for all the underdogs out there, and I'm one of them, like my name's not always on the top sprinters list. I've never been a favorite to win a long jump meet. That's none of my business. I come home with my medals anyway. But I'm just saying, this is an opportunity for all of those people to outwork, outsmart all those other people who just threw their hands up like, oh, well.
Wow. You one other thing you mentioned, like as we're on this train of thought for athletes, you mentioned in one of your blog posts, I think it was called The Last Race. And like, if you had known it was the last race. And I remember at conference this year, I was talking to the team, and what we said was, run it like it's your last race. And it actually ended up being their last race. But then now they're looking back like, well, if I had known it was my last race. But we say that all the time, run it like it's your last race. But no one seems to really do that. How is this going to change what people think about when they actually say, run it like your last race now?
I really feel like that should be some kind of homework assignment for all of us, like to write out what we would have done differently for the last time, if we knew that that last time was the last time. And then to put that up somewhere where you see it every day, like on the mirror. Because one of my things was, you know, like I would have like looked at the stadium longer. Like, I would have really just took that in. Like, there's nothing stopping me from doing that at every competition moving forward. But I'm going to have to remind myself of that because we don't do it, right? And so I think we really need to just take inventory of all the stuff we wish we would have done, write it down, put it somewhere where we always see, and then make a deliberate practice to basically stop and smell the roses every single time.
And that applies to life, not just to athletics. Because when you were talking about it, I just thought about my wishes for my last day with my son, just to have held him longer, to hug him longer, to have woken up and seen him off that day, because I was getting ready, he was getting ready. And sometimes life keeps us busy and we don't stop to, just appreciate the smallest of things. So in life in general, I think this whole thing that's a good homework assignment for anybody, just what are the things that we are taking for granted and that we can stop and appreciate a little bit more.
Like you said, it's a wake-up call. Are you going to hear the call? And are you going to rise to the occasion?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tianna. It has been a pleasure. I truly, truly appreciate you taking out the time to do this and to share your story and to help so many people.
I grew up believing love needed to be earned because I got love or I felt love when I did well or when my grades were good or the performance was good. And so later in the relationship in which I would eventually marry the guy, it wasn't foreign for me to be like, oh, I have to earn this love. I have to do this to get it. Or if he says I need to do this, then that's what I need to do to get the love, which is completely not true and unhealthy. But it was familiar because that's what I was growing up with. And I had to reparent myself because once you're responsible for that knowledge, right? And so once I learned that, I had to go in and basically rewire myself like, no, that's not how this works. I don't deserve that. That's not how this goes. And no, you can't choose your parents and you can't parent them either. You can parent yourself though. You can heal yourself in that way.
Amazing. Thank you, Tianna. You are amazing. I'm not going to take up all your time because I could talk to you all day, but I appreciate you and thank you for sharing your story. I mean, athletics is just, one thing in society, but it is I think that sports is a way of therapy, and a lot of people find out other things about themselves through sports. So this is truly a service that you're doing for so many youth athletes and even adults out there. So, and it's going to resonate with grieving parents because for me, I'm not even an athlete, but this has helped me so much. Just your story and your triumph. It's like, I won't give up. I'm not going to give up. I have to keep going. This pain won't be for nothing.
No, it won't be.
Yeah.
It won't be. Keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk again. I'm sure I can feel it.